thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Emerald Paradigm. We're so happy to have you here. We're happy to be here ourselves. And if you've never seen this before, I'd like to just kind of throw this out here, that we approach these topics that we share with you, or that we share our thoughts on, in a form of levels. It's an easy way for us to kind of organize our thoughts a little, to have this introductory level, and then move on to an intermediate level, practitioner level, and then a bit more advanced. So in case you hear us talking about levels, or you have before and you may not have known what we were talking about, that's our approach, and it helps us to stay on track because it's easy to jump off sometimes. But the topic of today, of what we would like to share with you, is some thoughts on relationships. Now, this is probably an area, I'm sure for you too, that our clients come to us with. People want advice, they want confirmation, they want how do I get this person back? Like, there's so many levels to relationships working out, and from an introductory level, I'd say we have to reflect on our experiences in our relationships to find and discover the potential patterns, even if each person seems to be very different. If you have relationships that are not working out, and by that I mean, ending in a very uncomfortable way, ending or existing still, but being very combative, and in your heart we know like whether or not something's good or bad for us, or if more than that, I think it's, what is this person bringing out in me, or what am I allowing to come to the table? What energy am I offering that creates, plays a 50-50 role in the dynamic of the relationship? Because the relationship is its own thing. Like, you are separate, you have your own energy, but when you come together, I've seen people, and I've been one of these people, who might be very, calm or this, but when I'm with a certain partner, I would be like explosive or cruel or jealous, and things that I don't want in myself. It's like we reflect, we mirror each other, right? So I guess triggers, yes.
Triggers, and I think that's one of the greatest gifts of relationships, that we that as a collective we may not have an understanding that, why do you get under my skin so much? Because you just said in yourself you didn't see yourself to be jealous or anything, but now with a partner suddenly like you're this monster, right? But why is that? Triggers. And that's where the reflection is. It's not so much that the person's reflecting back, but they're actually triggering certain dynamics in us that need to be, are being invited to be healed, or looked at and healed.
Right, they're being brought out.
Yes.
And sometimes that comes at a time where we're not ready to see it, so we haven't, the work isn't getting done. So the same pattern, I can certainly share that. This comes from sometimes our parents and how we see their relationship growing up, and sometimes we mimic something like that. That's very common, understanding or concept, that we do what we see, we create what we see. And when those are turbulent, to put it lightly, and then you get into these relationships as a young adult or whatever, and you're creating these you have this fighting dynamic similar to what your parents had, you have to have some type of maturity, understanding to choose not to follow that kind of pattern, and choose to create what you want, instead of kind of falling into or letting a relationship be bad because that's kind of how you've seen them before, if that makes sense. So the majority of my relationships, from like my first partner in like 9th grade or something like that, all the way until, I don't know, in my late 20s, like I had really bad or maybe mid 20s, but like I had really bad relationships, like fighting, cheating, stalking. Like I have restraining orders. I've had boyfriends break into my house and break the lights in my house, like really like scary stuff. Or like alcohol, like keep doing an alcoholic thing, So what I'm trying to say is, from my experience, like, yes, I can reflect, but I can reflect now from a place of, and I'm so grateful for this, of what kind of person was I to allow that? It wasn't like, oh, that guy was such an asshole. Oh, he's a piece of shit. Like, it's not that. It's how did I let that happen? How did I entertain this? How did I dance with this? You know, because I'm a part of it. Why? You know?
Why do you think?
I think it was, I felt victimized. Like, look, not I felt, but I treated myself as a victim of that things happened to me.
So powerful.
You know? So to powerful. Take that over, and it just, there was one day I had to wake up. I was actually engaged. I was like, what am I doing? Like, it was just bad. And he was great. He wasn't a bad person, but it was bad. And I just left the ring and I got out, you know, I just got out, and I was like, I couldn't look back, you know, and I still send like good energy to that person, because I hate to be the one that like to do something like that to hurt someone. But after that, everything changed. It was like, it was, you know, it was right around the time of 2009, something around there. So I think it was coming to an end for me of like a time period, perhaps playing in, you know. And then, you know, I got in a relationship with someone who has a lot of friends, male and female, was very open and fun and very like quick moving. And it was just like, I had this place of comfort of, I'm going to enjoy this. Like, I'm not worried about if we're going to get married. Like, that's not my thing. So, like, I'm just going to enjoy this. And it was the biggest lesson. And that's how I moved to Staten Island, too. Because, like, I made friends through all of that. But it was just, like, I had the choice. It was clearly my choice. Am I going to let this bother me? Is this a reason to be jealous? Or is this just the way this person is? And it was, like, I can't even begin to tell you, like, the dramatic changes which happened in my relationships in all around when I had that empowerment, but also I'm letting this in, or I'm
freedom.
Freedom to say, okay, I feel jealous, let's say, you know, that's a very common feeling in relationships, and it's one that really doesn't serve us hardly at all, right? Like, there's not really much need. So for me to say, like, I feel jealous, okay, well, let's look at that. Is my partner doing something to hurt me? Are they cheating on me? And not speculation, but like facts. Like, is this really happening? Is there a cause? No. Well, what's inside of me then? What do I need to work on to feel full, so that no matter what happens in my relationship, I'm still there, you know? So sorry for the tangent and oversharing. No. But just to give you an example of, like, you can change. You can change your relationships. You know, you think you can, all the guys are the same, all these girls are the same, blah, blah. Like, you know, we get stuck on that. But it's what you're bringing and putting out and what you're allowing, and you choose. You know, you set the standards for yourself. So.
Yeah, I love what you said. You know, some key words there, you know, feeling victimized, you said, or, you know, that you felt like you had to play that role. And, you know, even before we go forward, it's so important to say that this is not about pointing the finger at the self. No. It's not about, you know, condemning and saying like, oh, I messed up, you know, because yes, there are choices. And there's so many variables. I said to Lune, you know, I felt it was going to be hard for me to just kind of stay in level one with this one.
Right.
And it is, because there's so many variables that we should look at as we're looking at relationships. The self, of course, you just said that, you know, what's coming in from within, you know, past experiences, they're part of it, you know. If we have been abused or neglected as children, then those components are going to definitely be a part of the partners, you know, like how we gravitate and draw in partners. But what also takes place, you know, a big part of is our past lives, you know, and where the continuum of where the soul is, and what lessons, not lessons, I don't like that word, opportunities of growth is it still seeking to have, and how it's going to choose those relationships that are going to then challenge that soul to grow.
Right. And sometimes that's hard, especially if that maturity isn't there, because it is like, right? Like, it feels like, so you do create growth, you create change, but it's like, oh my God, it's like obsessive, I want to say, right? Like it's like all you can see. It's consuming rather. Yeah.
So from the get-go, I would say, as we commence the discussion, is if we find ourselves with a pattern, then we need to, this is one of the areas where I would so strongly say that we need to be the observer of ourselves and take a step back and instead of honing in, as you said, like victimized or, people are leaving me, they're hurting me, they're this, they're that, is to take the stance of the observer and from that place say, what is the pattern here and what is it trying to show me?
Right. What do I
Not that you're responsible for it, but what is it trying to reveal? Because if we can do that, then we can work on that aspect or aspects of ourselves so that we don't have to keep having these repetitive experiences in relationships. Make sense?
Absolutely. I love that. And you triggered something for me too, because, it's not, like you said, it's not that it's our fault or that we're responsible. However, let's say a perfect example is like just not knowing what you do want. Sometimes these bad relationships or pains are stress, or even on the very, very like light side, are just showing you what you don't want so you can manifest and focus on what you do. Like that can come into play as well. So a lot of times when we have, let's say, these younger or, I hate to use the term, but more like immature relationships, whether we are just not, we have to know what we want. What do you want in a partner? What do you want to be in that relationship too? And if somebody's approaching you and someone's talking to you and you start playing games with them right away, what kind of, I'm not saying you gotta like invest so much time into like, online relationships that you're like, but at the same time, like I'm saying, like Tinder or something, you're probably not bearing your soul on Tinder on like the first time you're talking, but what kind of energy are you bringing even from that? Like, and is it conducive to how you want to be in relationships? And just bringing that like authenticity to the awareness of what do I want? And therefore you can tell, I have these choices, or, I'm looking to manifest this. And when someone is not, it'll be so obvious, so you can break that pattern much more easily. I think that might have been what it was for me. It was just like, I don't want this.
Right.
I don't want this,
But you're saying something so important, and you know what? I'm going to say it right now. I don't know. I think right away I'm feeling like we're going to have a part 2 to this one. Because it's so important, and so, there's so much to be said. So we'll see, but I'm almost sure that we're going to have like a part 2. Because as I'm hearing you say that, what I'm prompted to add is, you're describing something that's very natural, right? Young relationships, early on, right? The choices that we make. So why do we scrutinize that? And the reason why we usually scrutinize that is because there's such a stigma universally in the physical realm that every relationship is the eternal one. We are taught, conditioned to believe that relationships that are real are supposed to be everlasting, but why?
Right. And that is hard for people to deal with. Oh, and my gosh.
I know that that's a hard thing to say, but perhaps what we need to do is, and I feel this strongly, is honor the fact that, we create a bond and a connection to people that we interact with, especially on the level of relationships.
Right, like romantic, yes.
Right. So, look, we need to honor that. And yet, semicolon, right? We need to reap the gifts of what that entwinement gave us. Even if it's the experience of, I had such a great time, and, we danced so perfectly, and whatever it was. And know that you walk away with the experiences to then move on. Right. Instead of, it didn't last. Yeah. So now there's something wrong with me. Right. They're wrong.
Oh my gosh.
They're bad people. I'm never going to be happy.
Right.
Like, why?
We have this calling to control everything, to claim things as our own. But I think what you're getting into is like unconditional love, like loving without attachment. Like that's not necessarily, you know, when we talk about this, I think it's going to be hard for some people to handle who are, let's say somebody's married and they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean I should be okay with that? Like, we're not saying, you know, everybody should be in a polygamous relationship or, oh, it's okay, just date. Like, that's not what we're saying. There's very beautiful things that happen. But I think that we can appreciate a relationship so much more when it's not a contract driven, or when it's not this, excuse me, like expectation of, you know, oh, this is the only one, and if I don't have this person, then everything falls apart. There's a incredible power that comes from being whole in ourselves, and then the relationship happens and it's beautiful and you grow together. Maybe you have a family, maybe you have a short-term thing that just, you know, changes your perspective on how you approach life, and, you know, take those things and treasure them, and don't turn it into something negative just because it didn't last as long. You know, it doesn't last forever. You know, it's like good chocolate doesn't last forever either, you know, like you enjoy it and then you're just like, oh, that was so good, you know, like.
Absolutely. And, you know, again, we're going to have to wave in between the levels here, because as I hear you say, right, polygamy, you know, right, no, there's some amazing partnerships that have been, you know, in unison for 50, 60, you know.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
Death do them part,
what about,
right?
Like Alex Gray and Allison Gray? Like, I was like, they are my couple goals. Like, they are amazing.
And so we kind of start blending into a little bit for a few minutes into the second level, which is, well, when we look at the soul matrix and the contracts, you know, when we are in the absolute realm preparing to come here, we look at almost our report card of ourselves, by the way. Nobody else but our higher self is looking at this report card and seeing what we've completed. And now we make a decision, okay, so I mastered this, you know, I excelled at that, I completed this, and now I need to fulfill this, right? And based on the need for that fulfillment, we're going to pick the perfect relationships, partners, soul group, soul tribe, situations, etc., to hopefully fulfill that. And this is why we have so many different dynamics in relationships, and this is why it's also so very important that we don't compare.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to not judge one another,
you know,
and
that we don't compare, because again, this is so up there in the many soul fulfillments that to just look at it in a very limited place in I want to be happy in a relationship just is very difficult,
right?
Because there are so many other elements being fulfilled on soul levels within the groups that are interacting in this. Yes?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so it's really, you know, complex. Can we have some kind of navigational, you know, movements, you know, now that we're in these contracts? Yes. You know, yes. So it doesn't mean that we're doomed and gloomed, you know what I mean, to everlasting misery. Right. If we came to fulfill a contract, you know, within the scope of what the soul...
It's the lesson of the contract. It's not the, oh, I have to suffer. Exactly. That's not it.
As soon as we can check off the lesson, or
like, I'm happy to be by myself, now I can have a relationship because I had to get there, like, as an example.
Or, perfect, I love that. Or I was able to empower myself, claim my empowerment in a relationship, to love myself more, you know, and walk away. Boom. Now you move to the next level. Right. So it's not like you have to stay here a whole lifetime. You know what I mean?
We're always evolving through even here.
Right. And so it's complex, and yet it's not, if we have an understanding that every encounter, every experience, can either give the checklist, you know, the check, or place us in a situation where we have to repeat it again and again because we missed out on embracing
whatever growth that was, or
yes,
definitely, definitely, and that's so big. That's so
it
big.
It is so big. You know, I hear it a lot. I know you do.
Tons.
But you know, over the years of doing this blessed work, my primary, clientele has been predominantly women. You know. And thousands upon thousands of women that I've sat with over the years, that it was usually the same theme, you know. So much so that I was guided to write, you know, I've written 2 books on relationship. The first one, which I love, is Female Divine, Hurt No More.
Powerful.
And the name by itself, right, the title of the book speaks for itself. Inspired by the countless of thousands of women who sat in front of me hurting in a relationship, you know, agonizing, broken, you know, and why, you know, and again, you and I, you know, we just spoke about like the many different reasons why, but at least in Female Divine, Hurt No More, it's a radical book. It's a hardcore book. Asking the female divine, you know, we need to look at ourselves. And you said something so instrumental earlier. You said, you know, you felt like you needed to be a victim. You know, like you needed to play that, right?
Right.
And what this book does is asks us to look at what role we feel we need to play that places us in a place of hurting.
Right, yeah. And it has gone through lifetimes, generations, family history,
Very
you know?
much so. Very much so.
It's evident, you know, in any way we look, that we can see that there has been this, you know, from that perspective, the female perspective, this less than, this what do they call it nowadays? Pick me chick is what they call it. Like the girls who will just, you know, they're kind of, you know, it sounds so harsh. I don't mean to be like, it's like a desperation, like, you know, you don't want your girlfriend, you want me. And it's like, you really want a guy who's gonna, or you really want a person who's gonna leave somebody for you, because guess what's gonna happen down the, you know, like that kind of like delusional, I'm sorry, kind of like.
Well, I love that you're saying that, because this is one of the things I highlight in this book, is what roles do we play? And again, it's not about pointing the finger, but about, if you want to know how, you know, you're engaging or partaking in this path that ultimately is going to lead to hurting, then we need to look at how we're engaging in relationships. And, you know, you're just saying, you know, take me over your girlfriend. Well, would we want to feel that? Would we want to be the girlfriend?
Right. Or the guy, or the person has like 10 numbers in the phone, and it's like, you know, all those people trying to get with that one. Like, it makes no sense. Like, who? It's
these potentially dangerous games with emotions. And why they're dangerous is because someone is ultimately going to get hurt. And not only will we get hurt, now it compromises the foundation to ever believe that we can truly be happy.
People start to say they're cursed.
Oh, absolutely.
I hear it so much. Am I cursed? Is there a curse? I have a curse. I'm meant to, you know, and it's just like.
So there it is, curse. So how can we even begin to dissect, you know, and share with the viewers, you know, so what do we do? You know, how do we find this out? Am I cursed? Is it a family conditioning? Is it my past lives? Well, again, the first step is taking the observer step. You know, we need to take a break.
Look. Yeah.
You know, a time out to take an inventory. I love that word. I use it repeatedly in the discussions, because we need to take inventory. one of the greatest tools that we have as we're moving through life is stopping to dot our I's and cross our T's, to see where, if anywhere, we can make a change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Create a shift to make things...
just direct our focus on what we want to grow in our life.
Right. And so, I've talked about the pardon letters a lot over the discussions. Why? Because they're so instrumental. And when we're looking at relationships, we definitely should take a step back and look at where we've been injured in our childhood. And I know that, when we hear that word, it's like, oh, childhood therapy, years, didn't work. And, but let's face it, Lune, our foundation, right, is to a great degree what composes us until we choose to then modify it.
Absolutely.
And to enhance it and to shift it. Yes?
Right. So it comes down to, it's not anyone's fault, and they're not responsible for the negative part or being attracted to a certain type of let's say like the early relationships, but it is your responsibility, because it's your power to decide, no, that's not for me, or no, I choose to release that, and I'm not going to get into relationships that is only hurt or feeling less than or anything. And so it's kind of contradictory, isn't it? Because it's like, it's not anybody's fault. We're not playing the blame game, but in an empowering part of the conversation, you do have the power to redirect this, to claim what you want, what you will accept, what you will dance with. And if you waste your time, I don't really love that expression, but if you waste your time dancing with these people who are not supporting you or settling or thinking you can change someone. I don't know about you, but like, I have so many emails that are about, how do I get my ex to take me back? How do I first of all,
you need to be
you can't do that. People have free will. We can't force people to love us. We can't change how people act or think or how they love. Like, you have to understand that sometimes you'll be in a relationship where somebody will love you, but they'll still be abusive to you. It doesn't mean we can't, like, people, some people love like that. Like, that's like controlling someone, hurting them is a way of them loving. I'm not saying it's right, and I don't think anyone should allow themselves into anything like that. But you can't control someone, is what I'm trying to say. You can only control yourself and get yourself out of situations and choose what you allow in your life.
I almost lose my breath as I hear you say that, out of compassion, because again, obviously then we have the same, like a similar audience, because it's so heart-wrenching.
It is. Oh my God.
When, we hear from these beautiful people, primarily women in this case, who want, how can I get my partner back? Or they're not paying attention. When there's clear evidence that they don't really authentically care for you, or that, this is not a relationship that's healthy, that there's abuse, controlling, neglect, like you said, all these things. Why would we want to go back to that? And the answer is because we clearly do not love ourselves. And again, I know that that's hard to hear.
It is. It's very hard.
Very hard, because we say, but I do love myself, that's why I want this partner. Well, no. If you loved yourself, then you would not be seeking a partner that's been hurtful.
Right.
And we're not talking, because no relationship is perfect.
Right, of course.
We're going to have disagreements, and sometimes...
That's how you grow,
I tell my partner a lot of times, I love you, but I don't like you today. And so what that means is, we're not going to like a person every moment or every decision they make.
Sometimes,
But we know what we're talking about here. We're talking about when you're not happy, when you're not being heard, when you're not being acknowledged.
Right, when you're not being validated.
Valued. Big one. From the thousands of women I've worked with, not being valued. And how we keep coming back for more when we've been rejected, neglected, violated. And
I think there's like a saving part that comes in too sometimes, like, oh, I want to change this person. Oh, I like how do you put that?
The rescuer?
Yeah,
Absolutely,
exactly. Yeah.
And there's something in that with the whole collective, so now it kind of like go into that third level for a minute, and in the previous show that we did, we were talking about the 1111 and how it had a connection to twin flames and how that represented unification, because clearly, right, we started this experience from a very separate space where we were all fearful and separate, and the arrival back to self-realization is recognizing that there is no separation, that we're all one, and how the twin flames were a great component, a field in helping the unification of that, right? And so when we talk about why the female, is such a rescuer, is because when creation was created for this purpose of this earthly experience, we know that there was one absolute flame. But for the sake of this experience, it separated itself into a feminine and a masculine field. And as those fields started to descend for the sake of this experience, those separate fields began to take on very specific attributes or traits, is a better word.
Right.
And we know that the feminine side, for the most part, by the way, we know that the genders have both masculine and feminine energies, right?
This isn't segregating there. It's in both of us. Right. Both is in all of us.
So it's not necessarily gender. But we know that the feminine flame is usually the maternal one.
Right.
The compassionate one. Exactly. And so we dwindle it now down real quick to this physical reality of relationships. One of the reasons why the feminine is such a rescuer is because they are tapping into that feminine maternal side. On the low side, like on the physical end, then it's rescuing. On a high vibrational place, it's not about rescuing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's like two sides to every part. You can kind of take it into the light or take it into the uncomfortable zone, or comfort and uncomfort. So in terms of like the feminine, the down to the healer, the maternal, that can be on the negative side, overbearing, controlling, making up stuff, kind of like intuition that turns into expecting the worst, or kind of creating your own stories, like, oh, they're not answering me because of this, or oh, where are they, like, like seeing too hard, like trying to see. And on the comfortable side, it's being a goddess, and being there and having a healing vibration, having a healing, maternal, supportive, and unconditional loving frequency, right? Is that like an okay way to say it, you think?
Absolutely. I love that. Unconditional love. And you know what? Here it goes. Unconditional love doesn't mean that you need to stay. And be abused. Unconditional love means that you may need to walk away and still honor an individual.
Right. That's what it is.
But because you are vibrating from that place, that high place of self-realization or of goddesshood or godhood, if this applies, this is also very applicable to the masculine.
Absolutely. I have many male clients that we discuss things like this with.
Is to be able to love unconditionally and yet love yourself as unconditionally, if not more, to be able to say, but I don't need to hurt anymore.
Right.
You know, it doesn't have to hurt.
Yeah. The love doesn't have to come with that. Right. Or I don't have to stick and be in this position to show that I love this person, even if I'm just proving it to trying to prove it to myself in some way. There's this like very romanticized version of that we think of love. Like you started to say in level 1 there, of this like Prince Charming, beautiful princess. She's a great cook. He's a great provider. Blah, like, you know, like there's this version, and we're brought up that way. You know, for most of us, you know, are kind of brought up to kind of have these expectations of things being perfect, and that is not the case. Like, I'm in a great relationship. Like, my partner and I have been together like 9 or 10 years. Like, we don't really keep track. That's how unattached we are. Like, we don't care. in a loving way, we don't care. So it's like, it's just having this like comfort in being yourself, and then it like gets matched, and you can just grow and be in this like beautiful place together. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I hope that it came out. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say that tidbit that you said about those beautiful words, complimentary, as we move right into the latter part of this discussion. So we know that, right, we all have a dream that, you know, we want to be Cinderella, and of course the masculines want to be the prince, you know. But then as we start to experience relationships, we quickly discover that there's a lot of disappointments, hurt, and, you know, just a lot of emotional baggage that may come from just having relationships in general.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so as we move a little bit into that middle ground, right, we revisit, so what are all these different type of relationships, at least from a spiritual perspective? Because we know what they are here. Right? You know, love relationships and romantic relationships and family relationships. Well, if we can take a step back again and recognize that the souls that compose the one, right, the many reflections of the absolute one soul, God force, then, you know, we sat there, whether we want to accept that or not, you know, we come here because we want to reach that place of fulfillment, of wholeness, and that means...
And remembering, right?
Yes. That we're going to pick many experiences that here we would say, I will never pick that. I would never, ever choose to do that. You're crazy.
Yeah.
But the soul says, I definitely want to experience that because I know that this is going to happen and I'm going to grow this way and this doorway is going to open and I'm going to help that one. The soul sees the many potentials that can occur from this experience. And so it signs up, you know, and it picks the perfect aspects of souls that are going to probably allow them to fulfill this, you know. And so you and I are a great example, you know, and we'll use ourselves because, you know, the viewers have seen us blossoming together, right? One of my goals, as I check my list, and I know that I say that this is my last life here, because I know that I'm like ancient beyond ancient, and I have many memories of many of my lives, and so I know that one of those goals was to be able to reach the masses, and for 20-something years I've tried to do that, and I have in many ways. But I also saw myself doing it in front of a camera or something. And I felt this for years. Well, fast forward, you come into my life, you know, and you have this amazing, you know, audience and following on YouTube. And we quickly discover that we have a lot of the shared beliefs and dreams, philosophy, goals.
Mission,
And here we are. And I love you, and I'm grateful for that, of course, right? And yet if I look at my soul matrix and my soul report card, there it is. Check. You see? Right? And so if we could see that, then well, this is a good experience, right? Fulfilling one. But guess what? They're not always this.
Right.
They're going to be hurtful and challenging at times. And yet they're still part of that, checklist that the soul is checking as it goes. Yes, does that make sense?
Definitely. And I think that just to add like a little to that, so how you are overcoming this then, we did touch on this before, but is to find from, like you said, the vantage point. What is it that I need to learn? What is it in myself that I need to work on before I start, I'll say attracting the next level, the comfortable relationship, the one that I'm dreaming about, the one that I'm longing for, to be loved in such a way. And or else you're going to keep having these kind of bad relationships, it's like,
yes. Absolutely. And, as we talk about then that middle of the different relationships, well, this is why we shouldn't compare, and say like, oh, but those people are happy, but, why is this person allowed to have, a family? Well, there are different types of relationships, and these are all my terminology, but to me, a soulmate relationship is not what's, because a lot of times the soulmate is like, oh my God, the one, the one.
Yeah.
No, the soulmate relationship to me is we're in agreement. We're in agreement that we're going to come here together to fulfill a goal, and that goal could be as partners in an endeavor. You're not a romantic partner to me, but you're a soulmate to me because you're.
I was going to say, it can be friend. It can be all kinds of stuff.
It could be friends. It could be siblings. It could be and is many times partners, because the goal may have been to bring children into this realm. Okay, and the souls sit there and say, like, look, we're not going to be madly in love, but we're going to function as a nucleus, as a family unit, to bring these children up because they need to be part, because these souls have asked, can you parent me in the earthly realm?
Yeah.
You see? And so now looking from the outside, we could say, oh, but why are they happy? Because on a soul level, there's a whole completely different agenda. You see? And this is again and again and again why we should not compare ourselves. We have no idea at what level of completion or fulfillment every single soul here is at. So for me to say, oh, but you're rich and I'm poor, and there's an injustice in that, well, I have no idea what you've experienced in your past lives. And maybe for you, the last little tick on your checklist is to be rich. And I may have been rich 10,000 times in past lifetimes, and maybe I need to be humble, not poor,
humble.
but adjust myself to a lesser means of living. And that doesn't mean that I'm inferior to you, or that you're luckier than I am, or that God loves you more than I, or that I'm cursed and you're not.
Right.
You see?
Absolutely.
And of course, it's tricky and it's challenging, because it's easy for us to sit here and, dissect all of this, but
when you're in
it, exactly, it's like, but okay, so my soul signed up for this, but I am in dire pain right now. I'm having an experience, like my life is falling apart. Well, we need to take an exhale. And again, where do we go with that? Well, you said it so beautiful. I love that word that you started there. We can remain a victim and feel that this is the cards that we were handed, and not be proactive or be willing to see, be the observer to see, could there be something else?
And just to interject really quickly, in terms of victim, sometimes you can just think of victim as like, it's like chaos, like not surfing the wave, but letting the wave tumble you and tumble you and tumble you, and not realize, like, wait a minute, I can swim, or I can stand up,
like,
and that's where
feeling caught in the hopelessness, in the pull of it, like
you're subject to whatever's going on around you. Because I just didn't want the victim to come into like only abuse. It's not, we're not tying it just to that. It's
feeling helpless is victimized, feeling that you can't get out of this.
Exactly.
So we can choose that, or we can take the step back and, I'm going to share something, you shared, I'm going to share something that, again, I share a lot. I know that it's made such a difference to so many thousands of women, but I was raped when I was 12 years old. And I was in an environment where there was ignorance, and I say that with love, but ignorance, where my parents, felt that it was more appropriate for them to avoid shame, to cover it up. And so the covering choice was to put me to live with my rapist, and help him get a place and, and all this. And so at 12 and a half, I was actually living with the man who raped me. And I had a child when I was 13. Now I'll stop there and say, that in itself was enough for me to hate the world, hate my parents,
attached to that victim,
become a victim, become an addictive person, kill myself, on all these other things that, that we could, most people would justify and say like, oh, but look, she went through this. And yet I, went through hell and it took me many years. But of course, today I see that as one of the greatest gifts that propels me to become a guru, to become a healer, to write 15 books, to do the work that I do today. And today I can authentically say that I love my rapist. And I know that sounds like really crazy, but I could see how every step of those experiences led to this. You know? And so I hope that that's an example of just saying like, look, there is something that's trying to reveal itself. And at any juncture, we can get caught in the abyss of the trauma. Or we can take a step back and see, what is it trying to tell us? How can we prevail? And how can I use this as a force field, actually, to raise me? And I'm an advocate of that because I'm an example of it. And I say that with humbleness, but
you are, and you've mastered that, and that is something that you can say. I've been there. I've been worse than that. Like not to compare, tragedies, but you have those experiences and those resonate in you. Again, going back to the authenticity of what it took to turn a horrible experience, like horrible isn't the word, a terrible, terrible, terrible experience into something that served you. Something that not only benefited you, but benefited all the people that you touched through all of your books. You should see her here in Staten Island, okay? Like, like she is the big fish, right? Sorry, I hope that isn't insulting. No. Like, it's like at the expos, like, we love you. You're so loved, and that gift that you made for yourself, like shot out, and it was a domino for all of these people because that's your resonance. It's just so powerful.
And thank you, my Lune. Thank you so much. But I shared that, and it's impactful. I know it is. But just to illustrate that, yes, there's some hardcore trauma that we step into. And, look, we can get caught in it and we can get swallowed. Or we can take the, and by the way, it didn't take me, I didn't get this like this, I hated everything inside God, and people, relationships and men, and just, it took me many years to know that I had to heal from all of that, and forgive all of that, and reclaim a lot of aspects of myself. So it was a lot of work, and yet the work came quickly because right behind it, and I hope the audience, you hear this, my soul was right behind it with the mission, with the purpose, you know. And luckily I was able to tap into that and move through the debris, because my calling for all of this beautiful work was right behind it. And so is it any different for anybody else? No. There it is, you know. It's waiting right behind there, right behind the, you know, the last trauma. You know, that could be the moment where you could take the step back and see what it's really trying to tell you. And in that moment, you can transform.
Absolutely.
You know, and just, you know, just end the cycle of being the victim.
Exactly.
You know?
I love that. I love that. And it's such an evidence of like, it ties for me to like manifesting. Just like we talked about, you have to know what you want. You have to know what you don't want, but you have to know who you want to be. And that's so important, because if you don't know who you want to be and what your calling is, you know, that kind of like plays into it, then it's like, it's just too, I don't say it's easy to lose sight of it, but if you don't have that, then how can you be stepping out of it? You know what I mean? Like, those are the tools that you can use. Visualization, writing, journaling, vision boards, heart and letters, all these things that we've talked about before.
Meditation.
Serving as tools to get to your core and come from there.
I think, you know, you hit perfect. Journal writing. I think that journal writing is so incredibly healing. You know, if someone asked me how I got through this, you know, I would say that meditation and journal writing were the top two. Because journal writing allowed me to express a lot of the emotions that I was feeling. Validation. Yes. And expression that I wasn't able to do with anyone else, and yet all at once allowed me to heal. Because something amazing happens, and we're getting off a little, but that's fine. You know, when you journal write, you're allowing your expression, you know, those deep-rooted emotions to come out into the surface. And what I love about it is that a journal is not going to ridicule you. It's not going to criticize you. It's not going to tell you to shut up. You see, it listens. And so it is an amazing tool for healing, you know. Absolutely. And then, of course, you couple that with meditation, where you start to, you know, separate yourself from the debris of the patterns, the this, the beliefs, the that, and start reaching, you know, you've got two incredible tools.
Absolutely.
Working for you.
I love the concept too of, and this kind of goes into like, I'd say Reiki a little, or at least I learned it through Reiki, of rewriting your story and rewriting your life, rewriting. So a journal, but also like a description of like, you know, write that relationship, write, you know, how you, what do you guys do? What do you guys like to hang, like the day to day, or, you know, as far as just like the compassion that's there and the love and the trips you take, like everything, write it and manifest it. But in my suggestions in terms of manifesting is to revisit it, you know, like don't let that story or that image fade away. And you know, I don't want to say don't let it evolve, because it does evolve, but like don't create a contradiction to what you're trying to manifest. So if you're focusing, let's say every night on, you read a journal entry, you read something that was like describing how you picture this relationship to be, know that the more you kind of read it, you're connecting with your subconscious mind, you're connecting with your higher self, you're sending images over and over again, and you're reaffirming it. So when, you know, some like questionable, you know, like individual kind of comes in, it's like no, it's like obviously no, and it doesn't contradict by, oh well, this is here now, you know, this is I like this timeline a lot better, you know, you can't do that. It doesn't that's not how it works. It comes when you're ready for it, and it has to be settled in, and not just like, well, you know, this bus was late, so I might as well hop on.
Exactly. You know, yes. And so, and you know, as I'm hearing you talk, I'm feeling like I need to, you know, come here to this space of, again, the victim, and saying, if you want to move past a relationship issue or pain or problem, be mindful not to enable yourself to have a platform, a stage to be a victim. And what by that I mean is talking about it all the time.
Oh my God, yeah.
Keeping it alive.
Yes, stop.
You know, with your friends and who's going to listen.
It's so easy to do that.
Over and over. And because...
I'm so glad you brought this up.
Oh my God, but it's one of the areas that I've seen, you know, where, you know, we feel better, right, if we share this with a friend. And by the way, there is truth to it. There is a truth
to that, yes.
We just said, you know, journaling and expression, and it is an amazing
but not
thing
when it's your
story. Have, you know, exactly.
You're telling your story. You're telling your story. You're drilling
You're
that in.
You're defining yourself and identifying the first show that we did with, this is my story. And even though we got hurt and that hurt was real, we need to get past it. I mean, listen, you're an ascended being, and so am I, right? And we say that humbly, but, you know, boldly here.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if I just took my fist and punched you in the face, no matter how ascended you are, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
And so we're not talking about the fact that this is not painful and that, you know, it causes an emotional surge of, right, emotions. But what we are saying is you cannot remain there.
Right.
And you should not remain there. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. It's get the lesson, get the thing, and move on.
And I have observed acutely that one of the areas in which we get stuck is when we become a victim in a stage. In other words,
oh my gosh,
we're enabled,
you know,
by our friends, by our parents, you know, mother, you know, parent.
How we talk about other people, how we share of what, like, any struggle that we're going through, no matter what that is, that's painting ourselves in a way. And thoughts are powerful. If I tell you over and over again how sad I am, how hurt I am, you're going to see me as sad and hurt, and it's going to be harder for me to change because we've got these people out there, oh yeah, like giving us a pity energy, you know, coming from a good place, but it's a pity, you know, and this kind of goes into projections and things that we thought about, how, you know, we've talked about for like a different discussion, but it's like, you're just creating too much there. You're very creative in what you're saying, what you're thinking. So be mindful of what you're even putting into someone else's head to hold for you. You know what I'm trying to say? Like
yes, because then they're gonna replay it back to you, even when maybe you're ready to start slowly moving, past it.
Oh, and you get slammed back to day one. Oh,
don't forget how you were hurt.
Yeah,
you know, don't go out anymore. You know, don't trust anybody.
Oh, he's a Pisces. Your ex was a Pisces. You know, like that kind of thing. Like, you're gonna hear it if you do that. Like, don't give yourself the opportunity. And that goes for everything. Like, you know, we want a sympathy. We want someone to understand us. Like, but yeah, you could apply this to so much. Like, I
don't mean to laugh because it's not even funny. I laugh though because we play such a part as a collective in keeping someone in a victim role. We participate in that. And if we really knew that we were doing that, maybe we wouldn't participate, because of course it comes from a place of love, of wanting to be there for a friend. And yet we should, on the friend side, or for that matter, this happens in all kind of relationships, where we could be enabling someone,
right? Definitely,
by giving them a stage.
Yeah.
To continually be that
continually victim. Yeah, it's not like it's not like the relationship ended, you're my heart's broken, you know, but there comes a time where, like, you have to encourage, you know, you are well equipped, you know, or well have the right to let someone know, like, get off that stage, like like gently, like, come down, let's talk about how we're going to rewrite your story.
Yes,
let's talk about what your next relationship is going to be like. Stop focusing back here, because that's, again, just drawing to you more of those, you know, painful experiences or undeveloped situations. So it's powerful stuff.
Oh my goodness, it is. It really is. And again, we could go on forever and ever and ever. And so as we go from that second to third, right? And we've been kind of like everywhere.
It's hard. It's hard. Right?
But as we go from that second to third level, you know, I like to go back to where we started with the creation, you know, that beautiful absolute life force, and the desire that it had to have this experience, how it split itself. We know that as twin flames, it split itself into two energies.
Alpha and Omega, right?
Alpha and Omega, absolutely. And even from that place, it was still perfect, you know, and complementary in, you know, knowing that it was one. But of course, in order to have this experience, those flames had to descend. And that means forget. That means choosing experiences that would be painful, but that would ultimately, trigger them to remember. And then remembering is what the new paradigm is about. Is about returning back. Back. You know, so in the old paradigm, we sort of descended, it came down and had the illusion of forgetting. And now in the new paradigm, thank God, we're remembering and returning back, you know. But when we were discussing that earlier on the discussion, we talked about the feminine, the Omega, you know, and how she's the maternal, right? And then we have the masculine side, which is the protector, you know, right?
The warrior, the hunter.
The warrior. And it descended as well, you know, and where we see that the feminine became the martyrer. Yes.
Yeah, the martyr for sure.
The martyrer, the sacrifice, you know, the sacrifice. Well, the masculine became very patriarchal. I'll use that word. You know, right? Separated, controlling.
And again, this isn't gender.
This is
energy.
Gender. This is energies, right?
I feel like we have to dance carefully.
Right. And, you know, this is not about blame or criticism.
No.
It's just an observation, an illustration of what happened in an etheric state, so that we can then use that as a roadmap to get up into a place of wholeness. So arrogance and many other things, right? But one of the things that this masculine flame did as it descended as well was hide. Hide. Yes?
I could see that. Yeah. No, I never heard that before.
And how, well, you know, and again, I wrote 2 of these books, you know, Female Divine Hurt No More and Male Divine Hide No More.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
And if we look at why they hit, you know, and again, this is after years, you know, 20 years of working with the feminine divine, and then working not as much because they simply were hiding with the masculine side, you know. God bless for the ones who did show up. But I quickly realized that why don't I have over 10,000, you know, feminine divines all hurting and 10 male divines? Because part of that dissension was hiding. And hiding from what? From its essence.
Yeah.
Of being seen, of having emotions, of it being okay to express itself, you know? And through that dissension, the masculine side felt very pressured in conditioning to what? To be strong. Show me your physical strength. Don't show me your emotion. Yes?
Yeah, definitely.
Show me your, you know, physical vitality, but don't show me your vulnerability.
Right. But what a strength there is. The twist here is that there is such a strength in vulnerability, because that's how strong you are, that you can be vulnerable, you know?
Exact. Beautifully said, Lune. Beautifully. There is no weakness in that. But of course, we know that a lot of the masculine gender, whether it's female or male, by the way, again, we're not talking about, you know, we're talking about energy, actually, not genders.
Right.
You know, they have a problem in being vulnerable because what? I'm weak.
Right.
I can't show you. I can't express to you. I cannot allow you to see. Right? And so
they can't allow themselves to see half the time.
And so I'm actually going to use the books to illustrate this, because it's so. So the female tries to rescue, the female tries to rescue the male because the male is hiding. And because he's hiding, she's trying to pull him out, and that causes a lot of pain. And here goes the struggle.
Right.
Because the male keeps hiding, pulling back, and the female keeps chasing.
Right.
Right. This has got to stop. Yes?
Yeah.
Because it just feeds into the feel of separation.
And to add on to the masculine energy, I find that a strong tie to that energy is, I don't want to say stubbornness, because it's not necessarily what I mean, but like a, don't tell me how to feel, don't tell me when to do this, don't tell me that type of thing. So the feminine energy trying to, not force, but, in a way force, I'll use it like encourage even can and be disrupt. It can be like, oh my God, and fight.
Well, that's why I use the books, because exactly as she keeps trying to help, and he keeps running away and hiding. Because I'm sorry, we're getting excited here, right? Because the truth is, in order for this to work. She has to stop chasing. Exactly. And he has to willingly want to stop hiding.
He's kind of the chaser then too. Like, not the chaser, but the presenter. The I'm here.
Exactly. He needs to blossom and evolve and step forward of his own initiative. And that can only happen when the masculine recognizes that it is part of the whole, which is that it's okay to be vulnerable, that it's okay to be maternal, that it's okay to be emotional, that it's okay to have wounds.
Because it was, before the Alpha and Omega, it is the wholeness is all of it.
It was all of it.
And it still is.
And it still is, yes. I get very passionate because this is so instrumental. And again, we take the little, to the individual, but on a collective level, this is massive. Massive. In that, in order for us to claim our wholeness, we should not have a line drawn in gender or feeling that, oh, you're a female, so you're this. Right. Leave me be my male, or you be your female, and you, No, it's both. The flame is one. The flame is one. And it just had the illusion of separating for this experience. But guess what? We're on our spiral upward, which means that we need to claim within ourselves both our masculine and feminine sides. And we cannot do that with one leg, saying, oh, I'm going to claim myself, but I'm only this or this. No, both. Both.
And I think that we'll find as that unification happens within us, as we tap into, I always kind of, when I think about like the masculine, feminine energies, like my go-to words are like intuition and logic combined. It's the combination of them, or the idea and the action to actualize that idea. It's both. And that's why when we have them within us, and tying it back into relationships, when those are in harmony, or at least getting very close, at least those ideal relationships, like that's when we're truly ready for them. I'm not saying you can't, if the other person is kind of doing the same, you can certainly get together and keep continuing. But if this person is here and you're here in terms of the path or the unification of being whole and complete, you're not really going to balance. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but you're better off just considering a rule of thumb. I need to be whole and complete. I need to have all these abilities within me because I want a partner who can encompass all of these abilities,
Yes. And you're tapping right into the third level of this. And in our previous show, which was about the numbers, we briefly tapped into twin flames, and you're right on it, because in the past, twin relationships, I know that, in the 2010, 11, when there was a peak of twin flame, discussions and articles and channelers, we need to suffer. The lower aspect, I mentioned this in the previous discussion, there's a lower aspect and a higher aspect, you're twin flames, so you need to take that pain, you need to pull them up, you need to drag them there. Well, guess what? If I'm tied to you, connected to you, right, and you willingly want to come, then we can move together, right? But if I am trying, and I'm moving this way and you are resisting,
then you're stuck, aren't you? Yeah.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and look, this illustration is very powerful. I can't go anywhere.
If you're
I have
stuck
to
with me.
let you go. If I desire to continue to move, and you are desiring to stay right here. Oh my God, that is so important in relationships, especially in this timeline, because there was a lot of discussion about, in twin flames, I have to sacrifice and I have to wait and I have to save them, and they're the lower aspects, so somehow I'm going to transform them. And well, there was a time and a place for that, and this is why it's called Hurt No More, because there was a time, and through eons, through lifetimes, we've been holding that field. All for the cause of unification. But guess what? We entered a new paradigm. And with the threshold of the twin flames who were able to hold the field, we were able to enter the new paradigm. And now suddenly their job is basically completed, unless they entered the paradigm as a flame,
right,
you know what I mean?
Together.
Unified.
Right.
And honoring each other, complimenting each other. No longer this. Because this doesn't fit in the new paradigm anymore.
Right.
And so we talked about this, right, in the previous show about the 2-2, the second wave. Relationships, the relationships that are being placed in the highest order right now are complementary energies. And that means that we can vibrate together, right?
That like the morals are the same. Like, just as an example, like what you want is the same. What you can do, what you bring each other is like not the same as in the same person, but the goal is then matched by, you have this skill, but you can do this, or you make this beautiful while you carry, so it's bringing it
balance
together.
And that balance, perfect balance means that if you take separate steps, there's still imbalances within each individual, but as a whole we can meet each other. We're not like this,
right?
Where I'm saying, Lune, let's go do a retreat, somewhere, and you go, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Don't take me, right?
Yeah.
But now you're like, well, tell me about it, Lavinia. Tell me a little bit about it, and what can I do? That now is an open field for this beautiful wave of movement, right? But again, this is resistance, and this second wave desperately needs complementary energies right now, because it is going to move the foundation of this new paradigm into movement, growth. It needs to create a structure. And in order for that structure to be created, it has to be facilitated, not resisted.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful when we understand, and I'm so excited about the wave of where relationships are right now.
I see it a lot, and I am seeing it in my personal life and my friends, like just the way that they're getting together with people, and it's very beautiful to witness. And I am seeing a bit of struggling in terms of understanding that it's not meant to be a struggle, maybe, like as funny as that kind of sounds. So for me, considering when the first time I heard about the twin flame, like not really being needed right now, like that's not the best way to say it, but like that's not the time anymore. The time is more complementary. That's what's going to serve us more, was like such an eye-opener, because I had not heard that, and I was just like, wow, that is so true.
That may not resonate with some, and again, I don't claim to be an authority.
Right.
Like,
and everybody is on their own thing. Right. So,
and of course, many come from a different place, from different channelings, but if we take a step back, by the way, there's still a place for the twin flames, as long as they went through the threshold in unison. However, it is for those individuals that are still holding, that space. Oh no, but I need to, person's my twin flame.
Who is my twin flame? When will I meet my twin flame? That kind of stuff. That's what I get a lot of. How will I know it's my twin flame? When will I meet them? And it's like,
if you haven't met your twin, this is radical, God bless, but if you have not met your twin flame, then you don't need to meet your twin flame anymore, because the importance of the twin flame holders are in place already in the new paradigm. What you should be open for is a soulmate partner that's going to be a complementary, because now that signifies the very sacredness, and importance of the twin flame holder. And if some may say like, oh my God, that's blasphemous, because twin flame holders are, but do we really think that the universal force field is going to be obsolete and not growing? You know what I mean? And say like, oh no, but this has to stay always twin flames, and nothing that can't change. And no, we're ever growing and expanding, and the need of the moment is always going to be expanding and shifting as we expand, and again, there is room. There is amazing twin flame holders right now in the new paradigm who are shaking this new paradigm into, the next existence. But they're doing it in a place of unison, and
I see that.
Right?
Definitely. Okay. And just to share with you, like I never had the twin flame. I never met anyone who I was like that with. So if anyone is out there like, oh shit, I missed my twin flame chance, like, not everyone got it. Not everyone
we all
got
have a twin flame, and the good news about that is that there it is again, going back to, we shouldn't compare. In the absolute, we all are an aspect of the alpha and the omega, and so we have an aspect as a twin flame, but they may not be here in this timeline at this present time. That doesn't mean that they, that we cannot unify at some other cosmic, etheric, astral level.
Right.
But not everyone needed to hold it on a physical. And by the way, I gotta tell you, for the holders that were here, I'm a holder. I'm a holder because I'm still with that partner of a twin flame, and I've got to tell you that it was grueling. I think it was more grueling than all that I shared previously about being raped and living with my rapist. It has been an exhausting relationship to harness, and so we should not envy twin flame holders.
Exactly.
Because unless they went through the threshold and are now holding that field, and the very few sacred twin holders were able to accomplish that, then it was nothing but pain and struggle, in that these are different, frequencies. And so the tug of war, the pull, and the resistance, and the everything is such work.
Right. Yeah. I think that, we hear words, we hear, twin flame is like the type of word that like you hear even when you're not knowledgeable to what it actually is. So I think that what you're sharing is just so important to hear, because I think that it's like, it's thought of like, oh, soulmate, oh, it's my match, it's my, and it's like a piece of cake, or it's like, oh, that's I'm not meant to be with anyone else, just that. Like what you were sharing about soulmates, I love that. Like I always kind of saw it as like, you know, like almost like, I'll say it like a strand of DNA, you know, when you have all these markings. And your soul mates, because I believe we have more than one.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
Have very similar or like a lot of the same markings. So when you come together or when you're, you know, in each other's life, it's just easy and comfortable. And you know, it's not that you never have a problem, but overall, it's comfortable. So, like, you know what I'm trying to say there? It's just like that. There's a difference. There is a difference, and the terminology is not precisely clear. Like there's some misrepresentation online, of course, you know, as there will be for anything. You can find anything misrepresented, but you know, it's nothing to be envious of.
Oh, no. It's a lot of work. You know, it's funny, and I say this, you know, from a place of love and humor, you know, but I've been through many things and nothing actually laid me down, you know, to say like, just take me already. But going through that relationship, many a times I found myself like, take me out of here already. Like, because the intensity of, you know, and the thing is that intensity is on every level. So the passion is amazing, oh my God, and the entwinement is amazing, but so is the this, you know, and the resistance and the, you know, the fight and the it's not just, you know, the romantic side that's intense. No, it's everything. It's the pain is a pain that's felt on many layers. It's just a very trying thing. But, you know, that reminds me, again, there's no judgment, but I've seen, you know, many pages, websites, you know, newsletter, all sorts of internet information where these people just pour out their hearts in, oh, I'm in pain, my twin flame is married, my twin flame is in another country, my twin flame is an addict, my twin flame is abusive, you know. And I've had clients and friends, same. And it just stirs me and drives me a little crazy, you know, when I read and I see how people still believe, and this is male and female now, you know, that we need to endure this pain, that we need to, you know, take it all because this is our twin flame. Well, we really need to ask ourselves, does our higher self, does the God force really want us to suffer that much, that it would expect us, right, to endure all of this, whatever is going on, just for the sake of being with a person? I don't think so. Right. Yes? And that's why, again, I don't think so. You know, because I think that a lot of people jumped on the twin flame wagon and are going through excruciating pain. Yeah. It's hard to let go of that. Like, I can imagine that's very hard to let go of that idea that we have in our minds of, or not me necessarily, but like that twin flame thing, and that desire and that longing for completion. You know, it's okay to say, all right, we didn't make it, but it didn't happen. Or, you know, it's what's the word, like Romeo and Juliet, like star-crossed a little. But like ships what's that, right? Ships that cross through the night. Yeah. And there's more that we can be working on now. Let's like open ourselves up to that balance, that harmony, those harmonious relationships. And they might not be like bursting with passion, but when you have that passion, so it comes in the fights too, you know? So keep in mind that like there's good and bad in both of that. Absolutely. And I love that you're saying that, Lune, and I don't know why, but they just showed me, so we're gonna go with it. A beautiful show that I don't watch much TV, but somebody recommended that I take a peek at this beautiful series called This Is Us. You mentioned it to me before, yeah. And, you know, you need to look at it, but it's a, you know, families, adoption. There's a lot of adoption that goes on, and how that, you know, the families grow. And why I'm bringing that up is because of what you just said. You know, we have a desire to have a child, say, you know, and of course, the first thing is, right, a natural childbirth, from our own body and our partners. But that's not always possible, right? And so, we could do intravenous, whatever that,
there's stuff to try.
Artificial inseminate, or we could adopt, right? And every choice is different. And yet, if we allow ourselves, we can still have the ultimate experience of sharing and experiencing unconditional love.
Right.
In spite of the fact that each one of them is very uniquely different. Okay. Those choices, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the same applies for relationships. Look, it may not be that twin flame, but that doesn't mean that we cannot love.
It's any less than. It's just a different... Right. It's different.
That you cannot rock my world, and that we cannot create
surprise
magic.
each other and be kind and loving and grow a beautiful family or grow a beautiful homestead or whatever it is, or have those experiences. Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Right? And so we said a lot, about relationships. Today we went here and there.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yes.
There's so many, they're so complicated.
We recognize that as light workers, that this is such a strong subject, even today, for many, right, of the people who reach out that we work with. And so we hope that in some way the show was able to, invite you to look at relationships in a different way, or maybe to, take that step back, right? Yeah. And see what proactive stance you can take so that you're not hurting anymore and making those choices of a victim,
it's very
a martyr.
Self-reflective, Yes. A lot of times we're looking at the relationship, we're always looking at what the other person is doing, but it's here. Yes. This is where the changes will come from. Yes. When you make them here, then everything will be different.
Absolutely.
Whether you're bringing that energy into the same relationship or you're moving on and attracting different ones, it has to start there. So I hope that that's what you can get out of there too,
Yes. And of course, I do recommend these books for anyone who wants to female divine hurt no more or male divine hide no more. They're full of exercises. I'm sorry, excuse me.
No problem.
And challenging to look at the self, Wow, amazing show, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we going to use today as an oracle?
You pick, because I picked last time.
Energy, since... Oops, I guess not. Maybe so. Since that was hard, right? We're gonna... This is a soft deck, the energy deck.
Okay.
Yes, so maybe we can pick some soft cards to end that intense subject. But very important one.
Yeah, definitely. I think anything that calls for a lot of self-reflection and work is a tough subject,
Yes, absolutely. Okay, you go first.
Okay. Goddess of the Moon. All right. Let me just stare at her for a second. Well, to me, the signs that pick, I always like to tell what signs pick out. So I see a waning crescent, so that means about to be a new moon. So there's a healing, there's a release that this asks us to look at, particularly I would say of the feminine aspects within us, obviously because it's goddess and lunar, and sometimes it can feel difficult, like shadow work a bit, to have those deep reflective things, because when we're considering all those times and making these changes, we have to face it again. It's not like you're just like, oh, I'm gonna be better. Oh, okay, yeah, I released that. You have to validate it to let it fully go. So, those are just some of the things that come up, and to know that, the moon comes back around. There is the sun rises. There's a new day, a new dawn, all of that stuff. But to this again is encouraging us to look in our feminine traits, our feminine energy, rather, I guess is a better way to say it, and see what can we release from that area. What do we choose to release, and it's not like, oh, I'm releasing this so I can't have it again. It's releasing it so you can have the better version of it always, whether it's a relationship or something within yourself which causes a better relationship. So, you gonna add anything or?
Receiving, I feel, I feel ritual in the card, allowing yourself to feel your worthiness, you know, because it's a goddess card. I feel like allowing the universal life force to remind you, to fill you into your place of, you know, divinity, wholeness, of majesticness, of beauty, you know, and to almost let that fill you so that then you can bring that into this physical realm, you know?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Ooh.
Trying to spread them out. There's so many in this deck.
I know, yeah.
They're the popular.
Ooh. Adjacent possibilities.
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
I love that
Dimensions.
card. I think that speaks for itself, right? Yeah, adjacent possibilities. Oh my God, I love this card. Whenever I see this card, is always remember that there's always more than one way.
We might think, oh, I gotta do this. What's next in line? It's like, wait a minute, I got this shortcut. I got this.
Yeah, that as long as we're trying or open and willing, that there's always gonna be a door open, you know, and the possibilities are endless. Never to believe that something is unattainable, you know. Don't impose on just controlling one thing. Be open to know that it can come in many different ways
that you could have never predicted, or your peripheral vision cannot fully see because this adjacent door or stairway or portal is open over here.
Yes. Yeah, right?
Yeah, really cool.
And I almost feel, because there's a door
on the
floor, almost like a message of a door closing or, you know, completed. And now seeing that because you've closed that door, that you have all these other possibilities. So I feel a lot of growth in this card.
Beautiful. Yes. Wonderful.
Yay! Well, I really enjoyed that. I hope that you did too, Lune.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, we want to thank everyone who's been tuning in with an incredible support, right? We've received from all the viewers and the messages. And we invite you to visit our Patreon page. We've added some goodies there, some updates to follow-ups, I should say, to some of the shows that we've had. And there's some other goodies like weekly readings that we're, you know, gonna work on. And so if you're inspired to go visit that page, we thank you for your support and your love, of course.
Yeah, just thank you so much. This is, again, just so purposeful and wonderful, in that just all of the things that go into this just feel so right. So we're grateful for the opportunity that you give us to do that, you know. So
absolutely.
All right, thank you.
And as always, we leave you with our love, with our light, and with our peace. We send you our love, and we love you so much, and thank you for being part of our lives. And until the next time, yes?
Yeah, see you soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.